Hi again. In today's video, we're going to be talking about something that's been doing the rounds on the internet lately. It's this aggressive guy, Mike Van Wyck, and his brutish attitude towards Jeff Nippard in the game. If you've not seen it, I'll show you the footage right now. It's basically this big, bald, angry guy releasing his rage on this nerdy, smaller guy, seemingly over nothing, actually, when you delve into the details. But aside from Mike Van Wyck's steroid use, why would somebody like this feel the need to get so angry and violent over nothing? Now, obviously, we all feel aggressive sometimes because, you know, when the Wi-Fi's not working properly and the TV's not working properly and you just want to shout at things, then it's easy to kind of lash out and get annoyed about things. And at worst, it's that kind of energy that can feel uncontrollable. This is why you see things escalate quickly during road rage incidents. It can almost feel like something foreign, like a beast inside of us that wants to claw its way to the surface and just explode if it gets out. Now, some people think that aggression is just being passionate about what you believe in. Okay, I can get on board with that. Passion, aggression, sometimes they can look the same from the outside. But there is a distinction because passion comes from a place of love, whereas aggression comes from a much, much darker place. A place of frustration, hurt, or even fear. So let's break this down, shall we? Why are some people like Mike Van Wyck so aggressive? Where does it come from? And more importantly, what can they do to fix it if you are like that and you're watching this? Right, first things first, aggression, it doesn't just appear out of nowhere. We're not born this way. No, aggression is something deeper, something bubbling beneath the surface. And I'm going to drop some truth bombers here. This burst of fiery emotion, it's actually expression of powerlessness. That's right, it's not just an angry reaction, it's actually an attempt to regain control. When things feel out of our control, we fight. It's almost like a primal urge. And, you know, this is a mechanism that's been evolving over eons of time. Here's the thing. When people feel powerless, they don't just sit there and cry about it. They act. They do something to make themselves feel big, to make themselves feel stronger, to try and take back control. Aggression is, in a lot of ways, a cry for help. A cry that says, I don't know how to handle this. And you might say, okay, Glenn, well, why do some people feel more powerless than others? And this is where the plot thickens. Aggression doesn't come from one single moment of frustration. It comes from deep-seated traumas from the past, from childhood, unmet needs, neglect, or even societal pressures that strip people of the sense of control. And I know this sounds heavy, but stick with me. When people grow up in environments where they don't feel safe or valued, it does something to their sense of self. They begin to feel small and insignificant, like their voice doesn't matter. And guess what? When people feel small for long enough, they start to fight for any little bit of power that they can get. They begin to rage against the world. They're trying to prove that they matter. But here's the thing. Rage does not solve the problem. It just deepens the feeling of powerlessness. Okay, now let's talk about the root causes of aggression, because people like Mike Van Wyck, they're not just born this way. You might look at him and just think, oh, well, that guy's just a dickhead. But no, actually, it's something deeper going on inside. It's about their emotional landscape, what's going on internally. So let's kind of explore this emotional landscape a little bit. There are layers, you see. So often people's aggression stems from a lack of emotional regulation. When someone's been told that their emotions aren't valid, or that expressing their feeling is weak, they learn to suppress their emotions. But suppression doesn't make the emotions go away, it bottles them up, creating this intense pressure that eventually has to find an outlet. So here's a few reasons why people, maybe even some of you people that are aggressive and watching this, might start to feel that way. So if somebody's experienced abuse, neglect, or abandonment as a child, that is a wound that doesn't just close up. It doesn't just kind of disappear. It festers. And when they feel threatened in adulthood, whether emotionally or physically, that unresolved trauma can resurface in the form of aggression. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've met a lot of people that underneath it, They're actually really valuable people that they just don't realize it. But when you don't feel good enough, when you feel like you don't matter, then it's easy to become defensive. Aggression then becomes a mask, something to hide behind to protect that fragile self-worth. We live in a world where we're conditioned to believe in the hustle, that we should be trying to achieve more, proving our worth. We're constantly bombarded with messages about being the best. It's all very capitalist, isn't it? It's like if you're not winning or constantly striving, you're somehow failing. And that pressure creates a lot of frustration and aggression, and so people feel like failures, and that's what causes them to lash out. Let's face it, most of us weren't taught how to process our emotions effectively. We weren't taught how to sit with our emotions, how to express them in a healthy way. We were actually taught to control our emotions, and that is not the same thing. Aggression often arises from not having the tools to deal with discomfort, anger or sadness. So we've got our roots, the unresolved trauma, the societal pressure, the lack of emotional skills. But the most important thing to remember here is the aggression is not the problem. It's the symptom of something much deeper. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting. People like Mike Van Wyck, or you, if you're someone that gets aggressive easily, you actually have the power to change. You don't have to be that person that gets annoyed over small little annoyances. I mean, nobody really wants to be like that, do they? First and foremost, you got to acknowledge it. And I don't just mean acknowledging it in the midst of a rage. No, I'm talking about acknowledging it as a pattern. You've got to look at your behaviour and say, okay, what's going on here? Why do I always react like this? What's underneath the anger? Only when you've identified the root cause of it can you actually start to work with it. Next, you've got to develop emotional intelligence. I'm talking about the ability to recognise your feelings, understand them and then express them in a healthy way. Emotional intelligence is something that you can actually fix and grow, just like, ironically, a muscle. So start small, recognise when you're feeling irritated, frustrated or upset. Instead of acting out, pause, sit with it, ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? What is this emotion trying to tell me? And thirdly, you should practice mindfulness. Yes, that thing that I'm always harping on about on this channel. Mindfulness helps you build the awareness necessary to break the cycle of aggression. It teaches you to notice your emotions without immediately reacting to them. You start to observe your anger from a place of neutrality, and that's why it's so good. It feels great that you have that control over your emotions. And you know, if people like Mike Van Wyck were to do meditation or mindfulness, they wouldn't have the kind of reactions that they do. They would feel a level of peace inside of them that just makes you feel happy. And when you're happy, you don't lash out at people. You're just a nice person that's enjoying life. Hope you got something from this video. If you did, drop me a comment. Let me know if there's something you feel like maybe I missed, then comment and let me know what that might be. And if you got something from this, then obviously hit the like button, and I'll see you in next weekend's video. Ciao.